I don't know how else to say this to you people at home. These are the last years of freedom. Our children are never going to experience what we experienced. We're going to have electric cars, which will be zone controlled, which will turn off if you go into the wrong zone, or turn off on certain days of the week. We're going to have money, which they control completely and absolutely, CBDCs, which they can freeze at any moment, or only allow you to spend it on certain things, or only allow you to spend it in certain areas. This is the beginning of the absolute end. We're entering complete tyranny and slavery. Nobody seems to give a shit.
Proof that we all have been finessed by the government.
So how did the government trick and finesse us to live how we're living now? What you mean by that? For example, right, I believe in God. I believe God gave us all this land. But how did the government make us pay for land that they don't own? Yeah, what? Yeah, what? So let's say you bought a house and you paid it off. You still have to pay the government taxes just to live in your own home. You right. And get this part. You don't even own your own car, bro. Wait. That's where you're wrong at, because I technically do own my car. I just paid it all off. No, you don't. So you pay every month to use your car. We call that insurance. You pay taxes every year to use your car. We call that tabs. Tabs is how they keep tabs on us. Exactly. So if you don't pay for the tabs every year, then they won't allow you to use your car. Dang, man, I feel like I'm being bamboozled, bro. Oh, no. It gets worse. Let me hear more, man. Now, when we go to work, right? Before we get paid, who get paid? The government. So get this. The government takes money out of our check before we even get our check. Then we got to pay to keep our belongings and use our belongings every month. Wait. So let me get this right. If I buy a house and pay it off, I got to pay the government to keep it, or they will take it from me and sell it to someone else. If I buy a car, I have to pay the government to use it. And every time I get a job, the government will pay their sales before they pay me. Oh, it get worse? Nah, I can't even get no worse than that, bro. Oh no, get this. Now, you're supposed to pay the government to do all the natural things that you're supposed to do. What you mean by that? Like, for example, if you want to hunt, right? Something you naturally supposed to do, you got to go through the government and pay for that. And then on top of that, fruits and vegetables are supposed to be all through the world for free, right? But we allow the government to take all our fruits and vegetables to put them in grocery stores so we can pay for them. This is crazy to think about, bro. You want to get married? Go through the government. Want your kids to be educated? Go through the government. You want...
So it's a thing where everything is calculated from day one, even to the construct of it all, right? Slavery was an economy. So that let me finish this point though. And when we start to look at it from a logical standpoint, I mean to cut your wisdom, like you said.
No, you good.
From a logical standpoint, when we look at it like that, we would not ask for some of the things that we were asking. We would be more strategic to this day, and here's the reason why. If you understood, regardless of how heinous slavery was and how it affected us, what it was meant to be and what it was back then, it was the only form of currency. When it ended, it was like a $13 billion industry. Back then with inflation, we talking upwards of almost $1 trillion. It would be one of the top stocks on the US stock market right now. You see what I'm saying? They got rid of it because a new system had to come. Slavery would not create an autonomous system for money. Because why? You're exchanging a body who gets sick, who can die, who can run away for a thing.
Human capital.
That's all it was. So it came to an end. You can only make them have so many babies. Now, manufacturing comes about.
Well,
This is why you're important. Hold on, this is why you're
important. It was too expensive as well.
Exactly. But in the beginning, it was the best overhead you could have.
Then it became slavery just for the point of slavery.
Exactly. So even when we ended it, you know, it was against the law to bring them over here, but it wasn't against the law to actually sell them inside the country. You can still barter slaves inside the country. So nothing happened because of moral reasons. Why do we think that these people stopped these things? Because they felt sorry for us.
Morals.
We moved on from a system that was dying, right?
Yeah.
To a system that was growing, manufacturing, industry, slavery is no longer important. Now we need to condition them so they can continue to work for us through this new system, right? How do you do that? Through all the things that they did, redlining, making us want to look like them, making us live in worse conditions than them, so that could be the thing we wish for the most. Soon as we get our hands on some money, what we do with it? We gonna try to go exemplify what we saw.
Islam, shalom, hola, aloha, bonjour, osio, assalamu alaikum. This your brother, Zach Bay, Indigenous American Moor, coming to you live in full effect. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell down below so you can be notified whenever I'm dropping new content. Leave a comment, interact with me. Thank you, I really do appreciate your viewership. Let's jump into another one. I know it's been a little while, but hey, I'm trying to get back into it. I appreciate all the comments from those who were missing the content, those who were looking out for me dropping new content. I really do appreciate you, and I'm trying to get back on, trying to get back at it, stay active, stay busy, stay motivated. So I'm gonna be dropping more videos more often, trying to do my best to, you know, keep you guys entertained and informed. All right, so I want to talk about some of the things that have been going on lately, and somewhat like current events, but this isn't going to be one of my current event ones. Or it might be, or this might just be one that I'm just wrapping up with you, you know, touching base, getting back into the groove of things since my little hiatus. So what I've been thinking about is, I want to title this one The New Normal Part 2. I've been speaking about this after in some of my other videos, and how the condition of the world, or even just America, the United States, has changed since the end of the COVID era scare, right? So this is the new normal that we have been thrusted into. All right. If you've been paying attention, times are getting tough. It's like money doesn't go as far. There's more struggles that people have to worry about on a day-to-day basis because certain programs are gone now. People are really unsettled. People are really concerned about where the future could be, even within the next 2 to 4 years. The scape is changing. The way you operate out here in this society, in this economy, is changing. You can't really operate the same way that we've been operating in previous generations. Money does not go as far. We're starting to get back, certain states are starting to get back to real currency, gold and silver. I was telling you about that, precious metals. We're moving away from the paper money. Some are thinking about how we're going toward digital. But I want to talk about something that I heard. It's kind of like a little experiment that was done maybe about a year ago or so. But it was pretty informative, pretty enlightening to me. So pretty much the experiment was, they followed I want to say a millionaire. They followed a young millionaire, and the challenge was that if his accounts were zeroed out, he wasn't allowed to use any of his resources. He wasn't allowed to use any of the previous pretty much any of the previous gains that he has accumulated before. If he could start from rock bottom and pretty much become a millionaire all over again. All right, this was like an experiment that they followed this man. So he was already a millionaire. He couldn't use any of his assets. He couldn't use any of his connections, anything like that. He had to start from rock bottom, like just a normal person from like high school trying to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, so-called, right? The experiment failed. I believe the guy lasted for about a month or two. He couldn't accumulate enough wealth, enough finance to like pay bills, to pay his rent, you know, to be able to maintain a cell phone, to be able to eat every day, to be able to maintain rent. The dude could not do it. So this whole notion of being able to pull yourself up by your bootstraps in this economy that we're in now, in this current age, it just does not exist anymore. You can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. In fact, that whole saying of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps was a cruel joke from the extremely wealthy down punching down on the less fortunate and more and poor, because you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. All right, it's a farce. You can't do it. You're standing up on your feet. All right, you're standing up on both feet, and how can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps? All right, that was a joke. It was a cruel joke from the aristocracy or the wealthy class to the poor, honestly. So you just can't do that. All right, like I said, the experiment was an epic fail. The guy couldn't make enough money in the economy that we live in nowadays. The nation's minimum wage hasn't been increased, $7.25, even though most states or a lot of jobs do pay more than $7.25, but most aren't paying a normal living wage. Another study came out that stated in order for someone on minimum, like pretty much out of all 50 so-called 50 states or 48 states or U.S. territories, out of all of these areas, a person cannot make it on 40 hours a week and make a minimum wage. You can't afford to put a roof over your head. You can't afford to eat every day. You can't afford your basic necessities and essentials. And then another study that was supporting that information pretty much proved it was a listing of how many hours a person, the minimum amount of hours a person has to work in order to pretty much make a living and not starve. All right, I'm gonna just say, I'm gonna just list the highest and the lowest. The lowest on that list out of all the countries was Japan. Someone has to work an average of like 14 hours a week just to be able to make ends meet, which is pretty easy. In America, all right, and the highest was in America. It says on average a person has to work 80. That's double 40, right? 80 hours a week in order to make ends meet, in order just to make it, in order just to survive, to maintain and sustain yourself. A lot of, not to mention trying to be the head of a household and raise a family. All right, it's not those numbers. I'm talking about a single individual person. 14 hours a week in Japan, 80 hours a week in America, and there's a lot of other countries in between. All right, but that was just really, really, really surprising. I don't want to make this video too long, but I do have some points I'm going over here, so I'm hitting them one by one. Hopefully I'm conveying my message, and hopefully you're really paying attention to this stuff, so you can try your best to prepare yourself and your family for anything that might go awry. All right, something else that was very interesting recently in recent news. The CEO of BlackRock, all right? If you know about BlackRock, I've spoke about them. They're like a hedge firm, all right? They're controlling the assets of a lot of wealthy people, individuals, and corporations, all right? But the CEO of BlackRock was taken out by a so-called lone gunman, all right? I'm sure you guys might have heard of that. The story was kind of, I want to say the story was a little bit, I want to say they tried to sow a little deceit into the story, because the report said that the so-called gunman was looking for like an NBA floor or NFL floor or something like that. He went, apparently they're saying that he went to the wrong floor and ended up on the BlackRock floor and ended up taking down the CEO. Pardon me. This is actually another, I wouldn't say this is a black flag or a false flag, but this could be another scheme, another plot for those who, control the unseen that's going on. Like, I would say other people call them the deep state or the shadow government. All right. This could potentially be another ploy. By trying to throw people off of the trail of, a lot of people know about that Luigi guy, all right? Luigi Mangione, the guy who targeted the CEO of an insurance firm, of a healthcare company, all right? Insurance and healthcare are the most lucrative investments in America. All right, so apparently this lone gunman ended up on the wrong floor and ended up taking down one of the CEOs of the BlackRock. All right. I believe it was targeted. I believe that's exactly who he was going for, but they don't want to incite the public on that Luigi Mangione type of energy, type of vibe. Something else that has been making the rounds on social media, a hashtag that has been going viral or being very popular, being used heavily lately, is "the poor will eat the rich." I've said this before. A lot more people are starting to chant this. It's kind of becoming like a battle cry. The poor will eat the rich. It's getting so easy to see who the haves and the have-nots are. And these people who are just increasing the debt ceiling, these people who are constantly approving these bailouts for these corporations, these people who are bailing out these banks, these hedge firms that are running things behind the scenes, it's going to be very, very easy to see who these people are. They're not going to be able to hide very well, but they're preparing to hide already. You know, these extremely wealthy people have been building these underground shelters and bunkers for years now, right? Not just celebrities. Let's see. Social programs are being canceled, fam. And those programs were there to aid the most vulnerable in our society, people who are having food insecurities, people who are having housing insecurities, right? These programs are being gutted. All right. We knew the plan for Doge when they came and did their thing and was pretty much opening the books on government spending and expenditures. This was low on the run of financial breaks, financial cuts. All right. Taking these programs from the most vulnerable in our society was not very high on the list. There were other places that they could have taken funding from that could actually benefit, you know, the society as a whole for everybody. But we know a lot of those budget cuts did not get passed by Congress and the Senate. So it was kind of like stalled out there, unfortunately. But they still used information from that list to go after what would benefit the common man, the common person, all right? So a lot of these social programs have been gutted and have been canceled. And those were programs that were helping people, the most vulnerable in our society, that actually needed it, all right? Like, most people don't mind that their tax dollars is actually going to programs like that, right? Most people don't mind that. Most people don't mind that tax dollars, that they're paying taxes, that it's going to fund public schools and roads and bridges and, you know, safety equipment and things like that, right? Most people like the fact that their tax dollars are going toward those things, right? But for the most part, that's only state tax. Federal taxes are more than likely, I would see like a 90% chance they're going to other nations overseas, other populations of people, Israel, the Ukraine, you know, that's where those tax dollars are going. And mind you, notice this, where did all those funds go for all these illegal migrants? They had funding for days. They had food. They had housing. They had free transport. They were getting put up in 5-star hotels. They were closing public schools and turning them into shelters and things like that. Where did all the funding for that go? Where did all the money for that go? If that money can't be turned around and used for the American citizens, actually people who are actually paying taxes, what is really going on here? Is this government really for us? It seems like it's time for a revolution. It says in the Constitution that the Second Amendment is to overthrow a tyrannical government. That's in there, fam. Things really have to change. Like I said, housing programs are being canceled. Average Americans can't afford to buy homes. All right. Hedge firms and other corporations like BlackRock, they're buying single family homes. They're also investing in health cares and raising the premiums, giving people higher co-pays. All right. Like I told you, some of the most invested in portfolios in America is the insurance agencies. All right, insurance, healthcare, and real estate. All right, that's all three of those is what BlackRock is currently investing in: real estate, insurance, healthcare. Also, don't forget Blackstone. Blackstone and BlackRock are damn near the same thing, but they split back in the 80s. Let's see, moving along here. All right, so healthcare. If you did not know this, in the United States, it has been recently voted on that food is not a human right. But we're all familiar with that in the past, America pretty much voted on, or the United States voted on, healthcare is not a human right. So that's why we don't have a universal healthcare program like other developed nations have. And it's been recently decided, I believe this year or later last year, that food is not a human right. So food insecurities can be something that could definitely be coming on the way. I've stated this in some of my other videos. I've stated that there is a high chance that these people are trying to manufacture a famine. They're controlling the food sources and the water sources. And if you don't grow your own food, if you don't know how to hunt or fish or something like that in order to sustain yourself like the ancestors did, these people will remove the food from your plate if you're depending on them to put it on your plate, man. I'm telling you, prepare in any way, shape, or form that you can, fam. So start planting gardens, start learning how to forage, figure out what berries, what mushrooms to pick to eat, what plants you can eat out of the forest, just in case you need that information, fam. And that's also information that you could pass down to the youngsters, to the younger generations. Let's see. Prices are going up and wages are staying the same. It's been like that for several years now. All right. The prices are going up on food. It seems gasoline prices might be stagnant a little bit, but food prices are going up. Insurance prices are going up. Subscription prices are going up. Prescription prices are going up. Like healthcare prices are going up. Premiums for any type of insurances that you might have are going up, and your wages are staying the same. Every year, if you don't get like I believe like a 3% raise every year, you don't keep up with inflation for the most part in any type of career or industry that you're in. The rate of inflation is going up like crazy because the power of the USD globally is going down. And of course, the tariffs were kind of doing something, giving us more trading power, even though our dollar is going down and the petrodollar is losing its force nationwide. There's a shift being made right now, all right? And the shift is going to be painful. It's like growing pains, but we're not sure if this growth that's happening is something that's benign or something that's malignant, all right? Like a tumor. There's growth going on right now, but how sure are we that it's going to be something beneficial or something that's non-detrimental to us? And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of information, a lot of evidence pointing to that this growth is going to be a malignancy. It's going to be something that's going to be detrimental to us, fam. Our society as a whole. All right. And when I'm saying our society, I'm not talking about the 2%, 3% of the most wealthy people who are a lot less vulnerable than the average everyday person. I'm talking about people who are working 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, working 9 to 5 jobs, people who are still trading their time for wages. All right. People who don't have control of their destiny, of their fates. People who are living paycheck to paycheck, fam. It's not easy out here. People are living off of their credit cards. That's another thing, because the dollar isn't going as far. People are buying groceries, buying gasoline, and they're forced to use their credit cards. They're paying the minimum balances on their credit, and we all already know the Fed increased interest rates on credit. So if anybody's paying the bare minimum on credit, it's probably going to take you at least 20 years to try to dig yourself out of that hole if you're constantly paying the minimum. So you just can't do it. It's not feasible. It's not feasible. All right. It's not fiscally feasible, fam, for any of us to be breaking and dividing our wages in order to pay for these debts, in order to pay for rising food costs, rising insurance costs, and rising premiums for insurances that certain laws or statutes or ordinances say that we need, fam. They're really draining you. They're draining any kind of nest egg that you might be sitting on. They're draining any kind of savings that you might be trying to hold. All right. It's really time for a change. Like, it really has to be a major change. Retirement age is going up. That's also something I wanted to speak on a little bit. Retirement ages has been going up. They want our seniors to work a lot longer. Those who are in power have said that the life expectancy for the average American has increased. So people aren't passing away in their 60s anymore. People are living longer. They're living healthier. So therefore they can work longer and make more money for the system and be pimped out or enslaved for that much longer. All right. So the retirement age was about 65, I believe. It was like 62, then it was like 65. And I believe they want to increase it to 72 now. All right, so they want people to work all the way until they're 72 years old. And if you work that long and you're 72 and then you retire, how many more good years do you have to actually enjoy your life, fam? Like, really? You might be sick. You might not be in the best health. You might be sore. You're tired. You just don't have the energy that you used to. You're drained. You're pretty much just... It's like all downhill from there, right? Who wants to aspire to that? I don't think most Americans want to aspire to that. Most people want to actually enjoy their golden years with family, with young ones, and not stress, not work themselves to the bone, and then they have nothing left for their family. Most people don't want that. As long as retirement age is going up, they also say AI is taking a lot of jobs, fam. So those who are in the workforce will be working longer, and they're going to be thankful for it because they have a job to work longer. Because people who don't have jobs are going to be destitute because AI, artificial intelligence, has taken their job. There's been talk about universal health care. I mean, not universal health care, universal income, meaning a certain amount of money that every citizen gets that you don't have to work for. It's just like a normal basic amount that you get. But most likely, if anything like that comes to fruition, it'll only be put in place if there is a central digital currency. Otherwise, the chances of the government cutting more stimulus checks, the chances of the government cutting more tax relief or tax refunds are pretty slim. It still could happen, especially since there's talks about the IRS potentially getting overhauled and turned into the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS is going to be turned into the External Revenue Service, so it's no longer going to be the Internal Revenue Service. There's been talks about that. It's kind of like I'll see it when I see it, I'll believe it, kind of thing. So I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to end it soon. But I still have 2 more things. Let's see. Congress and the Senate has been making record profits, fam. There's a few AI programs that a few people have been watching these people in the Senate, like Nancy Pelosi, and following their trades in the market. All right. So these AI programs are set to watch the trades that senators and Congress people are making inside the stock market. And you pretty much copy the trades that these people are making, and they're making money hand over fist, fam. The average of somebody entering into the political arena in the Senate or Congress and then them becoming a millionaire within the next several years, those numbers are astronomical. Pretty much, I would say like at least 89% of them have this trend. 89% of people who enter into Congress or the Senate and engage in this insider trading, and they become a millionaire within 1 or 2 years. That's the trend. It's an 89% chance. It's pretty much a shoo-in. While your wages and our wages are staying the same, and taxes are going up, and subscription prices are going up, and premium prices are going up, and food prices are going up, and money is just not stretching like it used to. More prisons are being built, and more police cities are being built, fam. Trust me and believe me, those things are in the works. The one that I know of that's closest is being built in Atlanta. There were protests going on about 2 years ago. There were protests going on, people trying to bring awareness, trying to stop that from happening. Because if they're building these huge police compounds, which means the police can be the attack dogs or the ground forces, all right, the standing army for the elites and the wealthy, and their families can be completely safe and sheltered, just like the military families on the bases, fam. All right, these military cities on these military bases, they're self-sustaining. That means if they shut those gates, everybody in there has everything they need to survive without any access or help from the outside for a good while. And they're also using the same blueprint for these police cities. These police are going to be out here. The plan is these police will be out here marching around on the street like martial law, and their family and their assets will be perfectly protected behind gates. They don't have to worry about anybody showing up to their front door protesting or anything like that, because they'll be safe in military cities. They're already sweeping Washington, D.C. with these masks on, all these agents acting like a task force. They're acting like stormtroopers. They're storming around. They're doing unconstitutional checkpoints. All right, this is currently going on now. If you've watched some of my older videos, I made a video about 3 years ago, I believe, and it was called Nationwide Lockdown. All right, it was during the COVID era, and it's pretty much been a slow uptick in order for us to get where we are today. All right, things are slowly turning that way if we don't make a major change as a society, as a people. All right, so those were some of the thoughts, some of the notes, some of the information I wanted to bring to your forefront. All right, these are things I've spoken about before, but these occurrences, they're still happening now. They're even more relevant now than I spoke about them before. Before, I was just telling you what to look out for, what to keep your ear to the ground for. Now these things are coming into fruition. They're actually manifesting right before our eyes, and if we don't do something to try to stop it, to try to course correct, it could be all downhill from here, fam. The American middle class could really be crushed and completely obliterated and wiped out, and then there will only be a lower class, a working class, a serf class, and then there will be the extremely wealthy, the aristocratic class, the property owners, the landlords, pretty much, which will be controlling everything. And if if a two-caste system, like a two-tier system happens, if the American middle class is completely wiped out and obliterated, the chances of going from the bottom class to the wealthy class is going to be a thing of the past. It's going to be gone forever. Hopefully you enjoyed this information. Like, share, subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell. Once again, this is your brother Zach Bay. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.